Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday. Beginning at 2 p.m. is that's Eastern time zone, by the way, as we get to ride home with you in the afternoons. You may find us syndicated on television, channel 182 Charter Communications Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't forget podcasts on thenewscasters.com. And I am always so thrilled to receive your emails. Send emails to Donna@DonnasEdge.com. That's Donna@DonnasEdge.com. A number of you want to know how to save money because, it's summertime and we're using the air conditioner at such high rates and we're just nervous about that bill coming in. So I found an article written to you, for you, and it's called 13 Appliances You Should Never Leave Plugged In. I totally agree with every bit of this. And it's from the website getasday.com. Okay, sharing this information also with all of your friends would be appreciated. All you have to do is just click the link, do copy, and paste it in Facebook or wherever you would like to share it. Email, private email, anything. But let's go ahead and talk about this. So a lot of common household appliances could be secretly draining your electricity even if they aren't turned on. This phenomenon is called phantom power or vampire energy. We've talked about vampire energy before. I had a guy after I talked about vampire energy, this guy who worked for an electric company said, we always called it that. I didn't know it was like for everybody to talk about vampire energy. While some devices pose a threat to your electricity bill, others can have more serious implications, posing serious fire hazards if they're left plugged in unattended. So next time you're out shopping for that next appliance, avoid illuminated displays or instant on features. These are red flags for phantom loads. I didn't know that. So for fire safety, inspect cords and make sure they're well insulated and check the appliances itself for safety certifications. Also avoid appliances that can get hot to the touch even when they're turned off or emit any kind of a burning smell. And something, it's hard for me to throw anything away because I'm always thinking, well, I could do something with bits and parts of it. At least put it in the trash bin. Don't use it if you're noticing the cord at the very end of it is becoming frail, or maybe you can actually see some electrical wires. Toss it, please. It's not worth it. And everything's disposable these days anyway. That's why you can get things at a little bit lower price when it comes to things like this. Okay, so let's talk about dryers, straighteners, and curling irons. Yeah, let's talk about those. It's no secret that one of the keys into beauty and fashion is hairstyling tools like hair dryers, your straighteners, and the curling irons. However, as essential as these things may be, the daily routine or the night out on the town, they are capable of generating a whole lot of heat. So it's best to keep them unplugged when you aren't using them. Otherwise, they could malfunction and start a fire. I just do that anyway. I keep everything unplugged like that. I just don't leave those plugged in because I'm always afraid my cat might jump up on the counter, accidentally hit the on button. I'm gone, burn the house down. I just always have that fear. So it's just a good thing. Unplug all of those things. Okay, let's talk about space heaters, especially if you've got some of those old ones that are out there. I think the newer ones are much more efficient because, see, I'm really, really cold-natured. So there are times, even in the summertime, we got to have the air on, like you can almost hang meat in the house. I can have a little heater by my feet and I'm okay. I can get it rocking. But some of those, if they're accidentally tipped, automatically turn off. Those are the ones that you want, okay? And got a cat running through the house, kittens especially get into everything. So again, if they tip it over, you don't have to worry about burning your house down. Even if you don't have wall-to-wall carpet, a lot of folks have rugs. So if you have that sitting on a rug, that could pose an issue. Okay, we know that space heaters are some of the best devices during winter, in my case, summertime too, but they can also put your home at risk if you aren't capable or very careful there. Space heaters are responsible for almost 1,000 home fires every year, and they account for 46% of heating related fires. So that's a safety issue, but always make sure to unplug the space heaters when they're not being used. Even when they're turned off, they could be dangerous. You got smart animals these days. My cat knows how to open up a door, even though it may have a safety latch on it, because he's hungry all the time. And he'll come and he knows exactly where his food is. So he knows how to open those cabinets. If they know how to open up a cabinet, they could possibly know how to play around and tinker and turn the heater on. So make sure, again, I'm begging, keep it turned off. How about electric blankets? I've always had this fear of electric blankets for some reason. But while modern electric blankets have more safety features than ever, I'm talking about the older days, older models are especially prone to house fires, accounting for about 500 every year. Wow, I didn't know it was that high. So the wiring degrades over time, making unplugging them, if you aren't using them or going out on maybe out for the weekend or whatever, can make it a safety item. So even newer blankets should be unplugged when not in use, just for peace of mind. You can kind of dig that. How about kitchen appliances? If I got to unplug my refrigerator, no, we don't do that, because I got to keep the milk, at a particular temperature, especially in the summer months. But there is a general rule about kitchen appliances. Again, you can find this on gretasday.com, GRETASDAY.com, gretasday.com. Now, there's a general rule about kitchen appliances. Now, if they have any kind of LED display or digital clock, that is going to use power when not in use. Wow, I didn't even think about that. But it's kind of unhandy to unplug the coffee machine where you got to, every time you pass by it, it's going, when you turn it back on again. That's why when I unplug it, immediately I fix the clock. Okay. Now you can see these displays even when the appliances are turned off. Their electricity can add up over time and contribute to the electricity bill at the end of the month. So some culprits include the coffee makers, and the fancy dishwashers, although some appliances are harder to unplug than others. My dishwasher, I don't see that on unless I actually, which Phil calls a very expensive dishwasher, because I hardly ever wash the dishes in there. But I see the coffee maker. I can see all that stuff works. And over time, I think it probably puts a little bit of wear and tear on it as well. Okay, let's talk about phone and laptop chargers. That's one thing I've noticed with a charger is some of my chargers get a little bit hot to the touch. There's a little bit of heat. Well, that's got to be using electricity. And it's also, in the summer months, it's got to be putting a little bit of heat into the den, maybe, or wherever you keep the charger. So be careful there. But you might think that a simple cable you use to charge the phone or the laptop will only draw electricity when you connect the relevant device. But that's simply not true. So let's go ahead and dig this one, because I have been prone to keep my laptop plugged in 24/7. So let's look at this. While some chargers have smart technologies, many simple charging cables will draw power to charge the device, whether or not you got it plugged in. So charger lifespans can go down while increasing the electrical bill at the end of the month. And if you have to buy a charger for your laptop, they cost a pretty big penny right there. If you go to Amazon, you might be able to get by with something less than $30. But then I'm careful because I don't want something like cheap going into my laptop to have to replace it and ruining the whole computer. So you can kind of see all angles at this. But this is something I definitely know, and this is from being in the cell phone business for many, many, many years. Batteries, even if they say they don't, batteries can actually build up a memory in them. So this is what can happen. Okay, so let's say I leave my cell phone or my battery to my laptop plugged in, and I keep it plugged in all the time. Well, the first time you plug it in, okay, you let it drain all the way down. You've been really good at doing that the first month. Then we start getting lazy. Okay, so I'm just going to plug it sucker in so it's going to be ready in the morning when I wake up. Or I'm just going to plug this phone in whether it needs to be charged or not. The only time you want to do that is if you have some kind of storm warnings that are out there. Yeah, go ahead and plug it up. But I'm talking about constantly on, and you got it running constantly, and it's always charging. There's a little battery in there, and it does build up a memory. And you do not want this thing to build up a memory, because then guess what you got to do? Practically buy a new phone, because most of the batteries they put in the phones right now are not removable. Even my laptop I use, it has to be taken apart to remove the battery. It's not like it was back in the olden days. And which can be a good thing, because sometimes taking it in and out can be a bad thing. But another bad thing about those batteries that are inside is you can't clean them. And because I always like to clean the contacts, if you can take the battery out of your cell phone, then don't damage it by taking it out of one that can't be taken out. But if you can, take it out and clean the contacts with rubbing alcohol. That does the best thing in the world. You want to get, I really don't like to use Q-tips. Some people do, but it seems like even using the more expensive Q-tips, it always leaves a little bit of that cotton on the contacts, and I think that also affects the charging abilities. So long story short, okay, let the batteries drain all the way down before you recharge. You're doing two things. You're not building up a memory in the battery, and another thing that you're doing is prolonging the life of the charger, okay? Oh, a third thing, you're also saving money on electricity. Oh, a fourth thing, okay, it's not hot in the summertime when you're trying to keep that air conditioning on. So we found 4 reasons. Okay, entertainment systems. And what about those? Many entertainment systems will not turn off properly, and they do have a mode where they go standby for more convenience and faster startup times. This feature, while handy, does draw power even when you think the system might be off. So these devices can use anywhere between 5 to 10 watts each, adding up across the month and costing millions of households more each month. And we don't want to do that. You know, so some of these CEOs can make $2 million a year. That may be some of it. Let's take one more, then we're going to go into a commercial break. How about computers and office equipment? Now, computers are often left to automatically go into a sleep mode, much like entertainment systems, which means they can start up faster and actually keep data. But at the cost of power outage, modern computers are much more energy efficient, power efficient, meaning that if you have an ancient desktop laying around, it might be a good idea to upgrade if you're power conscious. And also the newer computers are lighter, the batteries last a lot longer, they're just much more efficient. Another reason to unplug these important devices is that electrical surges and storms can damage components if left unattended. So surge protectors can protect your computers from damage, unplugging any possible surges that could happen. It can ensure as little power as possible is being used. Now, another thing about power, this is not in the home, but in your car. Okay, so we like to leave our car chargers unplugged, because this is what can happen. Any car can do this, okay? There could be a malfunction, or it could just plain old do it. Sometimes what happens is when you leave the car charger in there and then you got your cell phone on, it can create a surge going into your cell phone, which could damage the battery even further. So the best thing to do, unplug those two. I know it's a hassle because I'm always trying to find it. It's usually 9 times out of 10 is going to be under my car seat, so I got to go dig and find it. However, it's better than ruining the battery on your cell phone, which can cost you about $100 to replace, or a possible surge where you've got to actually replace the entire cell phone. That's not fun, and it does cost a lot of money to do that. Let's go into a commercial break, and I promise we're going to return in just a few minutes.
Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Donna's Designs offers a line of handmade memorial, wedding, and keepsake jewelry that launched back in 1970. I'm a self-trained jewelry designer, and I will work closely with you to create unique designs you can love and treasure for years to come. Whether that be flowers that were used in a funeral arrangement or stones you found on the beach at a memorable trip, call me at 256-659-4319, and let's think of the possibilities.
We are back. So we are talking appliances and things you should never leave plugged in. How about an electric toothbrush? Did you think about that, an electric toothbrush? Okay, electric toothbrushes are great for brushing your teeth, but leaving them plugged into their charging station can impact your electricity more than if you didn't have it plugged in. This phantom energy, remember we talked about that, might not be a lot, but like you have a lot of those items on this list plugged in, they can all add up to drain out a noticeable amount of electricity. Just unplug them when you no longer need them. Okay, let's talk about this one right here. It's exercise equipment that plugs into the wall. They can use a lot of power due to its heavy motors. However, even these devices, if unplugged, they can drain your power through LED displays. Now, if you leave those plugged in, let's say. Now, there are documented cases of faulty exercise equipment causing electrical fires. So it's best to leave these items unplugged if you've already done your exercise for the day. You know what? I used to have exercise equipment and stuff, and I found I didn't use it. I like to exercise just by doing sit-ups. That way it doesn't matter where I am, I can still exercise. And you get a lot of exercise out of doing sit-ups. You're not having to worry about, stuff taking up a lot of space in your house as well. How about toasters? Toasters can seem innocent enough, but if they're exposed heating elements that can be activated by a stuck lever or maybe a faulty switch. I don't know. I've just never been a fan of a toaster. I have, it's a Emerald. It's kind of like this little toaster. It's like it's like a mini oven. And I like this thing because, first of all, it doesn't use a lot of electricity. Now, I leave it plugged in, so they'd start unplugging it because it does have the LED lights to it. But what I like about it is it's easy to clean. What I've always, I don't know, it's such a thing about a toaster where you can't really get in there with a cloth and just clean it really good. You got to use a brush. Then I'm worried that I'm going to accidentally have liquid in it. Then when I plug it in, it's going to electrocute me or something. So anyway, I just like using a toaster oven. I like compact appliances. In other words, an appliance that can do many different things. So I don't have to have a toaster. I don't have to have an oven. I don't have to have this. I don't have to have that. And it's all into one. It's even got a clock. That's why I like to leave it plugged in, because I can just walk by and see what time it is. And I would think, unless you get the battery operated clocks, the only thing about the battery operated clocks is you got to really get the expensive batteries. You know what I mean? I don't know. To me, they don't pay for itself. Maybe it does with you. Send me an email and let me know what your thoughts are about that. Okay, so the London Fire Brigade has reported dozens of fires in kitchens every year due to toasters being left plugged in. Even when they aren't being used, they can sap a lot of that energy. And then, of course, you got a higher bill. And that's what we're trying to do. It's all save money, right? Okay, now let's talk about portable air conditioners. Can draw up to 10 watts even when they're not on, but are plugged into the wall. They're also notorious for being able to trip breakers or cause other electrical faults if left on during power surges. Yeah, that can happen. So rather keep the portable air conditioner units in storage during the warmer months. And when winter comes, unplug them even when you leave the house and you're not using them. Yeah, totally dig that. Okay, now what about food processors? I thought everybody didn't keep that plugged in, but small kitchen appliances like food processors, your blenders, and even electric can openers will often have internal clocks. We talked about that on several other things. Or they can have sensors that will slowly power over time, and all those things do add up. Yeah, I like to leave those things unplugged anyway. Especially a food processor. Again, I'm worried my cat is going to malfunction. My cat's going to get into it because it thinks food's in it. You know how cats are. In some rare cases, those older faulty devices can even cause these items to malfunction and start fires. Most modern devices should have protection built in, but it's still better to be safe and just turn them off before going out or leaving the room. Something, I had to wonder about this because my son and daughter-in-law, Brad and Larissa, are notorious about unplugging every single thing in the house. And it drives me insane when they do it to my house. Whatever they do at their house, whatever. But I don't want my coffee maker unplugged. But there may be something to that. First of all, lower power bills. We talked about that on several cases here. Lower power bills and probably last longer, because he's had the same coffee maker almost since they've been married, and that's been 16 years. Maybe he's on to something I didn't know. Okay, let's talk about lamps. Now, many lamps have extra features like dimmers. They've got smart bulbs or touch controls that often draw a tiny bit of power when not in use. So if you're on a budget and need every watt to save, consider unplugging those devices. Now, string lights can also overheat if left plugged in for too long. So fire departments urge people to unplug lamps when leaving on a trip, and that's going to minimize those fire risks. Totally dig it. Okay, I'm going to talk with Phil about this one. And this is about printers and scanners. Many households often own outdated scanners and printers that have been in the family for decades. Ours hasn't. We like to change them out every few years. But other than using expensive and hard to find ink, these printers often use more electricity than you think, even when they're not printing. So older models of printers are always waiting for orders when they're plugged in, so they continuously draw power. And that's true because, we have the internet here. We've got the fast internet system here. And so it's always on. Because I can even print something with my cell phone, which comes in handy a lot of times. So even if I'm walking around in the yard and so I can, like I find a pretty flower and I take a picture of it, I can click, as long as I've got the power, as long as, as the internet is going to outreach out in particular parts of my yard, I can go ahead and print a picture and it's waiting on me when I come back in the house. That's kind of handy. But I get what they're saying. Okay, how about portable fans? Portable fans, much like space heaters, can draw on your electricity when they're turned off, especially if they are older models. Still plugged in, you got it off, it still could draw electricity. While they are perfect for keeping on during the summer heat, yeah, I love them, try to avoid leaving them unattended as they could pose a small fire risk if left on long enough. Yeah, I get that, especially your older models. Okay, washing machines. Old washing machines are notorious for being fire hazards. I have an aunt and uncle whose house burnt down. This is way back in the 1960s. And it was because of a dryer. She had the dryer, was using the dryer, I think, when she was going to bed at night. And it caused a house fire. So because of that, I've always been pretty cautious. But old washing machines are notorious for being fire hazards. So faulty wiring or mechanical issues from wear and tear could make these seemingly okay appliances more of a danger than you'd think. However, it may be inconvenient and sometimes impossible to unplug these appliances when they're not in use. Yeah, it had to pull the thing out and then unplug it. But keeping a watchful eye on them when they're on is very important that you do that. And shortly afterwards. Now let's talk about clothes dryers. Okay, old and outdated clothes dryers can also have a similar problem to washing machines. Malfunctioning thermostats can lead to much more heat than you actually need, break the dryer, and maybe pose a fire hazard. So like the washing machine, it may not be easy to unplug these appliances, but being mindful of their age and reliability could save your house from burning down. And what about this? Let's think about this. It's not actually in the article, but if you have those surge protectors, used just in case, a lot of us keep multiple things plugged into those surge protectors. That would be kind of handy because all you'd have to do is just unplug that one thing. Yeah, okay, that's an idea. Okay, let's talk about deep fryers. Okay, I never leave one plugged in, but some kitchen appliances pose a greater risk of fires than others. So deep fryers used to be a common sight in countries like the UK, but they're kind of dying out. So in a world full of modern, more reliable appliances, the deep fryer is losing its place, and that could be a good thing because these appliances were once notorious for causing house fires. So if you still own one, be extra careful when using it and never leave it plugged in. Yeah, I get that. How about air fryers? I love my air fryer. I mean, this thing's like heaven sent. While air fryers haven't been around long enough to have a lot of data on them, it could be wise to clean any buildup of oil outside the inside of the outside before each use. So it's an overall good idea to unplug them, just like many appliances that have an easy to reach plug that'll save you some residual power consumption and just kind of keep us off from feeling paranoid. You know how we get sometimes. How about smart speakers? Many households in the United States have adopted smart speakers like Amazon Echo and Google Nest. But because of these speakers, they're always waiting on your next command. They're never really, truly off. While the speakers don't use much power in the standby mode, if you're trying to cut out every unnecessary cost, that could save you a few $100s in a year's time if simply unplugged. I agree with every bit of this. Thank you again so much for watching Donna's Edge Television Talk Show. Doesn't matter. You can find us on television, and it's syndicated on the FundUp television found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. You can also find us syndicated our podcast on thenewscasters.com. That's the Newscaster Studio, and we appreciate you doing that as well. Also, continue sending emails. That's why we're watching this show right now, because one of our listeners said, let's talk about appliances in the home and how that can actually use a lot of electricity. So we did, and I want to thank you, Trina, for doing that. You can continue sending emails. I can use your name or not. Donna@Donna'sEdge.com. That's Donna@Donna'sEdge.com. Again, thank you so much for watching.